Saturday morning, 9:12 a.m. Daniel is dragging the mower over the last patch of overgrown grass behind the shed, sweating through an old Eagles t-shirt, when Erica leans against the doorframe holding her favorite Live, Laugh, Love mug. She never drinks from it unless she's about to say something fake with a sprinkle of self-righteousness. The dog isn't barking. The stove smells like burnt batter. There's a flicker in her eye that isn't grief. It's premeditation. "We need space," she says, sipping like she's asking him to pick up milk. "I'm not saying divorce, just time. A break." He doesn't answer right away. He lets the motor idle out, flicks the safety switch, wipes the sweat off his temple with the back of his hand. She's already halfway turned, probably expecting a sigh, a debate, maybe a demand. What she gets is none of that. "Okay," Daniel says, looking her straight in the face. "Let's take space." She freezes, the kind of freeze you see when someone's bluff is called and they weren't holding a damn thing. For a split second, her face twitches, almost like she thought he'd beg. Maybe cry, maybe fight for her. But all she gets is lawn clippings on his boots and the smell of hot metal from the mower. "Oh," she says, faltering. That was fast." "Was it?" He shrugs. "You've probably been rehearsing it for a while. Figured I'd skip the theater part." It's hard to describe the particular silence that followed. Like someone dropped a glass, but it didn't shatter. Just bounced once, then rolled off the table and vanished. You want to know what happened next, don't you? Because here's the thing. More than 97% of people listen to these stories without subscribing. And if you're still here, if your gut's twisting right now like Daniel's was, hit that subscribe button. Tells our team to keep going. It's free. Just one tap. Now let's continue. Inside, the pancakes were starting to burn. Erica turned off the stove with exaggerated calm. That performative calm she used when scolding the dog or delivering unsolicited advice to strangers in parking lots. "I think we both need to find ourselves again," she muttered, folding the dish towel like she was choreographing a TED Talk. Daniel stood in the middle of the kitchen, still holding the mower key. He looked at the walls, pictures of their 23 years together. All the smiles framed in Target wood. All the vacations where she looked at the camera and he looked at her. And something inside him, something soft and stupid, just turned off. Not snapped. Just clicked into a quieter gear. "You gonna stay with your sister?" he asked. Erica blinked. "No, I just meant space in the house. I was thinking we alternate nights in the guest room. I can do Monday through Wednesday, and then—" "No," he interrupted, still calm. "You asked for space. I'll take it. You don't have to be dramatic." "I'm not. I'm being literal. You said space. I'm giving it to you." Then he did something that made her recoil harder than if he'd yelled. He smiled. It wasn't smug. It wasn't cold. It was liberated. Erica stood there, holding that ridiculous mug like it was a shield. "I'm just trying to fix things before it's too late." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're not trying to fix your conscience?" She scoffed, turning toward the sink. "You're being childish. And you're being vague. Congrats to both of us." She didn't respond. Instead, she put on her podcast and started washing a pan that didn't need washing. Daniel walked upstairs, took a small overnight bag from the closet. No drama, no yelling, just the zipper sound. It was the sound of a man who'd just been given permission to walk through an open door. He grabbed one shirt she hated, the one with the cartoon owl on it, and threw it on top of his neatly folded jeans. Then he looked at their wedding photo, which sat crooked on her dresser. He didn't touch it. He didn't need to, because by the time she realized he meant it, he'd be long gone. And silence? That would be louder than any goodbye. Monday, 6:44 a.m. Erica wakes up to birds she never hears. Not because they weren't always there, but because Daniel usually left the fan running overnight. White noise. Annoying but consistent. Today it's off. The bed's still warm on her side. His isn't. There's no sound of the shower. No smell of his terrible instant coffee. She walks downstairs, rubbing her eyes. The kitchen table is bare, except for a folded piece of paper weighed down by his old house key. No envelope, just handwriting she'd know anywhere. Blocky, even, unbothered. Taking the space. "You'll be okay. That's it. No love, Daniel. No, I'll call soon." Just 7 words that felt like they'd been waiting years to be written. She blinks twice, rereads it. Upstairs, she checks the closet. His drawers? Half empty. T-shirts missing. Socks gone. Even his ridiculous dad shoes, that he swore were orthopedic magic, vanished. She throws open the garage. The workbench is stripped. The socket set he begged for last Christmas is gone. She slams the door, heart pounding. She texts, "Where did you go? You're not serious. This is overreacting. Call me." 3 dots appear, then vanish. No response. She calls. Rings once. Voicemail. She tries again. Same thing. The next day she calls his brother, Ron. He answers on the second ring. "Ron, hey, it's Erica. Is Daniel with you?" Silence. Then, "Haven't seen him. Did he say anything? Did he mention going anywhere?" "Nope." "You sure?" Another pause. "If he wanted you to know, you'd know." Click. She stares at the screen, her hand tightening around the phone like she could crush it into confession. By Wednesday, the mail arrives. He's canceled the shared Netflix account. The one with all their history. The continue watching section had his shows. She always skipped past them. Now it's just her reality shows and true crime. She realizes, stupidly, that she doesn't remember the Netflix password. He managed that stuff. She checks the joint bank account. Transfer. Everything but $243.08 is gone. She opens the garage again. Notices something she missed. The hammer, taped to the wall above the tool rack, still there. But something scratched into the wood behind it, like it had been hidden by the handle. She squints. Goodbye, E. 2 inches high, carved with a pocket knife. That knife's gone, too. She stands there for a long time, her feet freezing against the cement floor, heart pounding, pride fighting panic. She tells herself he's just blowing off steam. She tells herself he'll come back. He's not the type to ghost someone. He always leaves notes, apologizes for taking the last soda, says sorry when he bumps into a chair. He's not this, except maybe he was, just never to her. Friday morning, she drives to the office, distracted, misses a turn, sits at her desk and scrolls their texts. There's a pattern she didn't see before. His messages got shorter, less emojis, less "got it, babe," more "okay," fewer pictures, no memes, no reminders of inside jokes. He'd been stepping away long before she gave him the runway. That night, over a glass of Pinot, she tries again. The number is no longer in service. She laughs once, short and sharp, because it feels insane. Like he died. But worse than dying, he's alive somewhere else and she's not allowed in. She logs into Facebook. His profile's gone. Not private, deleted. She opens their shared Google Photos album. His name? Removed. His photos? All still there, but no longer labeled. And that's when it hits. He didn't leave. He unmade himself. Erica goes upstairs and opens his dresser again, looking for something. A note, a receipt, a trail. All she finds is a single, bright yellow post-it wedged behind the top drawer. It reads, "Sometimes space is a kindness. Sometimes it's the only mercy left." No signature, just silence, and a drawer that no longer holds anything warm. The town was the kind of place where the gas station doubled as a hardware store and the woman behind the counter knew which car belonged to which man just by the sound of the engine. Daniel passed the town sign, population 1,784, and felt a strange relief at being nobody. No LinkedIn profile, no doorbell with a camera, no HOA newsletters with passive-aggressive font. Just the road, the trees, and a vacancy sign hanging crooked at a roadside duplex that smelled faintly of old wood and tomato sauce. He rented the smaller unit, $8.50 a month, all utilities included. It had a porch with a rusted swing and a view of a pond where ducks fought over breadcrumbs. The landlord, a retired trucker named Mel, handed over the keys and said, "Don't mind the neighbor. He sings gospel at 6 a.m. Daniel just nodded. He could handle gospel. He could even handle bad gospel. What he couldn't handle was her voice anymore, telling him they needed space. While she tiptoed around like she hadn't already checked out emotionally months ago, he unpacked only what mattered: clothes, tools, a small leather journal, and a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Man." He put it in the cabinet next to the chipped plates the previous tenant hadn't bothered to take. That first night, he stood on the porch, staring at the horizon. No sirens. No passive-aggressive neighborhood texts. No Erica, flitting between self-help podcasts and yoga retreats with names like Uncoil. Just frogs and crickets. He slept with the window open for the first time in years. By week 2, he had picked up a couple odd jobs. Fixing a leaky roof, Unclogging a dryer vent for a woman named Marcia who paid him in banana bread the size of a tire. Word spread fast. Quiet guy, works hard, doesn't ask for much. They didn't ask where he came from. He didn't tell them. It was time for something quieter, was all he'd say. No one pushed. He started going to the local church, not for religion but for rhythm. Hammering shingles during the week, folding tables after Sunday service. They needed hands more than faith, and he had steady ones. At the potluck, they asked what brought him here. He said, "Long story. Let's just say I finally listened to what someone asked for." They laughed, nodded, passed the baked beans. That was the magic here. No one was trying to connect dots you didn't hand them. Each morning he woke with no alarms. Brewed fresh coffee. Black, bitter, honest. He'd sit on the porch and write one sentence a day in his journal, just one. That was the rule. Monday, sun's up, and I don't hate it. Tuesday, the nail went in on the first hit. Wednesday, she would have hated this place. He never wrote her name. Never once. Not aloud. Not on paper. By month 1, he had deleted his old email accounts. Not just logged out, wiped. No backup. No forwarding. Just gone. Like erasing chalk from a board and throwing the eraser in the fire. He'd kept one burner phone for emergencies. No contacts. He turned it off unless he needed to schedule jobs. Each call was business. Nothing personal. Nothing traced. On his off days, he drove with no destination. One afternoon, he ended up by an old flea market near a lake. Bought a broken watch for $5 just because he liked the sound it made when he shook it. Time didn't matter much anymore, but he kept it in his pocket anyway. A tiny souvenir of a past life where time meant compromise. He avoided TV. Not because it reminded him of her, but because everything reminded him of her if he let it. So he didn't let it. He found joy in absurd things, like the stray cat that kept stealing his sandwich crusts, or the teen who painted flames on his riding mower and asked Daniel if he thought it looked intimidating. Daniel told him it looked like a transformer with asthma. The kid laughed so hard he almost ran over his dad's foot. He didn't miss anything. That was the weird part. He kept waiting for it, the collapse, the panic, the regret, but all he felt was weightless. He wasn't erasing her for revenge. He was erasing her because she had already drawn the line. He just decided to obey it fully. And that scared her far more than any shouting match ever could. 3 months pass. Not 3 casual passing months. Not the kind you blink through. No, these were long, stretched out weeks for Erica, where each morning started with checking her phone, pretending not to, and each night ended with replaying their last real conversation like it was an episode of a show she swore she hated but couldn't stop watching. She thought space would be a phase, a dramatic little escape that would make him appreciate what he had. She expected a text by week 2, a call by week 4. At worst, she imagined he'd show up on the porch with an overnight bag and some humbled apology about needing time to think. Instead, silence. Not loud, angry silence. Just absence. A blank space where his patterns used to be. She didn't even realize how many parts of her day were tied to his until they weren't. His stupid morning jokes. His loud sneezes. The way he walked too heavily up the stairs. All gone. She tried distraction first. Repainted the living room a restorative taupe. Took a class called Yoga for Self-Reliance. Started a dream journal that devolved into angry scribbles by week 2. Then came the bargaining phase. She opened her laptop one Thursday evening, wine glass sweating beside her, and started typing. Not a big apology, nothing too dramatic. Just a test balloon. Subject: it's been long enough. Body: hey, just thinking it's probably time we talk. No pressure. Just catch up. I miss your stupid owl mug. She didn't sign it love. That felt too big. She also didn't hit send right away. Reread it 5 times. Changed miss to noticed was gone. Then back again. Finally hit send. Refreshed the inbox 30 times that night. Nothing. By Saturday, still nothing. Not even a bounce back. The message went somewhere. It just wasn't him on the other end of it anymore. Sunday, she got in the car and drove to Ron's house. Daniel's brother. They'd never been close, but Ron had always made awkward small talk at family gatherings. He owed her 5 minutes, she figured. No car in the driveway. No porch light. She knocked. Waited. Knocked again. Waited longer. Nothing. She scribbled a note on the back of a receipt and tucked it in the mailbox. Ron, tell Daniel I'm trying. Please, just have him call. I don't care about anything else. I just want to hear his voice. She didn't sign that one either. Felt too desperate. The next morning, she called the only number she had left for him. The one from their shared plan before he disconnected. It rang once, then silence. Not even voicemail. Just that unsettling click like someone hanging up without a word. She tried again. Same result. Then her phone buzzed. This number is no longer in service. That was it. No goodbye. No auto-reply. Just a digital shrug. Her hands shook as she held the screen. Not from fear, from the unfamiliarity of losing control. She sat on the couch for 2 hours after that, still in her coat, staring at the dark spot on the hardwood floor where his work boots used to leave a faint smudge. For a brief moment, she imagined this was what it felt like to be the ghost in someone else's story. Present, but unreachable. Real, but irrelevant. She opened her laptop, checked the email. Still unread. She refreshed the page. Still nothing. Then, in a strange moment of stubborn hope, she tried sending another email. This time shorter. Subject: I'm still here. Body: you win. She didn't expect a reply. But the worst part? She still hoped. And hope, when you've already been erased, isn't romantic. It's pathetic. It happened just after 10 p.m. A slick patch of road, a glance down at the radio, and a brake that didn't grab soon enough. Erica's car slid sideways into a guardrail with a sharp metallic scream that was over in seconds. But the sound stayed with her like a chorus of regret. The airbags didn't deploy. Just a crunch, a jolt, and silence. She sat there, knuckles white on the steering wheel, heart hammering in her ears louder than the hazard lights tick-tick-tick. Her left shoulder throbbed, and there was a shallow cut on her forehead from where her sunglasses ricocheted. It wasn't fatal. Not even hospital-worthy, but it stripped her down in a way she hadn't expected. Her purse had spilled into the passenger seat. Lipstick, chewing gum, a grocery list for one, and the photo. It had been in her wallet for over a decade. A creased, worn snapshot of her and Daniel at a fair, half-lit by neon, laughing with ice cream smudged on their faces. It was the one she always swore she'd throw out after a fight, and never did. She stared at it now. That frozen moment where everything still worked. Before space. Before silence. She picked up her phone. No thought. No hesitation. Her fingers dialed the number she hadn't called in weeks. The one she told herself was disconnected. It rang. Not a click. Not a dead tone. It rang. Her heart jumped to her throat. She sat up straighter, suddenly more afraid of him answering than not. Then someone picked up. But it wasn't Daniel. It was a woman. Not young. Not old. Mid-40s, maybe. The kind of voice that carried certainty. Not anger. Not surprise. Just calm, practiced knowledge. He doesn't take calls from this number, the voice said. Flat. Final. Before Erica could even process the syllables, the line went dead. No breath. No goodbye. Just a surgical click. She stared at her phone, blinking like maybe she'd hallucinated it. Checked the number. It was his. Or at least had been his. The call log didn't lie. 1 minute, 10 seconds. Enough for the ring. Enough for that one line. Then nothing. The world narrowed into a single point behind her eyes. Her breath caught, shallow and uneven. She didn't know what to feel first. Relief that he was alive, or fury that someone else had answered his phone like they were authorized to draw the boundary lines. She redialed. Straight to voicemail this time. Generic. No name. No voice she recognized. Just, the number you have reached is unavailable. She sat in the car, lights still flashing, as a police cruiser pulled up behind her. A young officer tapped on the window. Ma'am, are you all right? She nodded mechanically. Just shook up. You need a tow? No, I'll call someone. But she didn't. Because the only person she wanted to call, the one who used to show up with ibuprofen, a blanket, and too many questions, was gone. And worse? He had a gatekeeper now. A voice that sounded sure. Close. Settled. Not a coworker. Not a fluke. Someone living in the space Erica thought she'd only temporarily loaned away. Back home. She replayed the voice in her head over and over. The certainty. The absence of hostility. That was the worst part. The woman wasn't being defensive. She wasn't claiming anything. She was protecting something that had already been decided. Erica stood in the kitchen at 1 a.m. phone in hand, screen dimmed, wondering who the hell Daniel had become, and who the hell had become his silence. The woman's voice haunted her, not because of what she said, but because of how calmly she said it. That unbothered, almost clinical dismissal. He doesn't take calls from this number. As if Erica were just a wrong number. As if years of marriage could be reduced to a caller ID he no longer recognized. By the next morning, Erica was unraveling. She didn't cry. Not then. Crying would have felt too human. What she felt was erased. And that demanded answers. She started with the obvious. Facebook. Nothing. His account had been deleted months ago. Not deactivated, erased. She checked old photos they'd both been tagged in. His name came up gray, unclickable, like a digital tombstone. Instagram, gone. LinkedIn, scrubbed. Even his old Reddit username, where he used to post about DIY repairs and dad jokes, showed no activity since the day he left. It was like someone had dropped a curtain over him. She moved on to more serious tools. Paid for one of those online people finder services. Typed in every combination of his name, age, and old address she could remember. The first report came back with outdated info, old addresses, former phone numbers, the job he quit the week after leaving. The second showed a registered P.O. box in a town in central Tennessee. Her hands started to sweat. It was a small thread, but a thread nonetheless. She called the number listed for the postal center. A disinterested clerk answered. Post Center, this is Tanya. Yes, hi. I'm trying to reach someone who rents box 514. We don't give out customer info, ma'am. I'm not looking for personal details. I think it's someone I know. Can I leave a message? Nope. Sorry. Privacy policy. Could you tell me if they've checked it recently? Pause. Then, they shut it down last week. Erica blinked. What? Closed the account. Paid in cash. No forwarding address listed. But they were active until last week? I didn't say that. Click. The line went dead. Erica stared at the wall. It wasn't the wall of her house anymore. It was a war board. A chaotic mess of printouts, browser tabs, and scribbled notes. She wasn't sleeping. Not really. When she did, she dreamed of old conversations with Daniel, twisted and mangled. Dreams where he stood at the foot of their bed, watching her without speaking. Dreams where his face blurred, replaced by hers, the voice on the phone. By the end of the day, she made up her mind. She drove, 10 hours straight, into Tennessee, GPS guiding her through winding back roads and forgotten highway exits. The town was small, barely on the map. A church, a diner, a sad-looking auto parts store, and the post office. She sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, watching the front door, hoping for a miracle. That he'd walk out, that she'd catch a glimpse, profile, a shadow, anything. No one familiar emerged. Inside, she waited in line behind a man buying stamps. Her hands trembled. When it was her turn, she stepped to the counter. Hi, I think my husband used to have a P.O. box here. The clerk, a man in his 60s with a veteran's cap and a tired smile, raised an eyebrow. Box 514, she said quietly. His face gave away nothing. Closed out last week, he replied. I know. I just was hoping maybe there was some kind of note, forwarding info, cash account. No notes, no forwarding, standard closure. Sorry. She didn't move, just stood there, like maybe if she lingered he'd take pity, pull back the curtain and say, actually, he left you a message. Here it is. Instead, the clerk tilted his head. Look, ma'am, I don't mean to be rude, but whoever he was, he didn't want to be found. Erica's mouth opened, but no words came out, because deep down she already knew. This wasn't a breadcrumb trail. It was a scorched path. Deliberate. Clean. He hadn't ghosted her. He had planned for this. Every record she pulled led to a dead end. Every email bounced. Every login attempt denied. She even tried calling his old accountant. No answer. She checked old mutual friends. 2 of them blocked her. 1 didn't reply. 1 wrote back with a single line. He's okay. Leave it be. Leave it be. She wanted to scream, but instead, she got in the car, hands shaking, eyes rimmed with something that wasn't quite tears. Just the dry burn of a realization landing in her chest like a concrete slab. He didn't just leave. He deleted the version of himself she knew, and whatever version remained wasn't hers to reach. She parked 3 houses down and sat with the engine running. It was stupid, really, creeping up like she was casing the place. But something about Daniel's old friend made her feel like a teenager again, caught smoking behind the school, about to get lectured by someone who didn't yell but just knew. The garage door was open. Same cluttered bench, same faded sign above the shelves. Measure twice. Cut once. Cuss endlessly. Inside, Rick was hunched over a motorcycle frame, grease smeared across his arm like war paint. He hadn't aged much. Still had that slow, deliberate way of moving like he'd rather take 3 hours and do it right than rush and explain later. She killed the engine and stepped out. He looked up once, saw her, and said nothing. Just wiped his hands on a rag that was more stain than cloth and waited. "Hey," she started. "Hey, I didn't know if you still worked out here." He gave a small shrug, half amused. "Didn't know if you still drove that Honda." She smiled weakly. "It's not the same one." "Sure looks like it." They stood in silence, the air between them thick with old memories and the smell of WD-40. "I'm not here to make trouble," she said finally. "Didn't think you were. I was hoping you could tell me where he is." Rick didn't move, didn't blink. Just looked at her like a mechanic sizing up a rattling engine he already knew was beyond repair. "You know I can't do that." "Rick, please." He didn't yell. He didn't scoff. He just folded his arms and said, plain as a highway sign, "Why are you really here, Erica?" She opened her mouth to reply, but nothing came out. She looked down at her shoes, dusty from the post office parking lot. The laces didn't match. "I just want to talk to him. Just once." He raised an eyebrow. "So talk. Not to you. To him." Rick tilted his head, leaned back against the workbench. "Daniel told me if you ever came around, looking desperate or sorry or just plain bored, I should remind you of one thing." She braced herself. "He said to remind you you asked for space. So he gave it to you. All of it." Her mouth went dry. Rick kept going, slower now, like each word had been stored for just this moment. "He told me he wasn't mad. Not even sad, really. Just done. Said he was tired of being your emotional airbag. There to absorb the hits, then get stuffed back into the glove box until the next crisis." "That's not fair." "Doesn't have to be," Rick said. "It's just what he felt." She swallowed, but the lump in her throat refused to move. "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered. "Didn't mean what? We need space? Because far as I recall you said it real clear. Calm. Like you were ordering brunch. I thought he'd fight for me." Rick finally scoffed. "Then you don't know him at all." He turned back to the bike frame but didn't pick up his wrench. "You thought space was a tactic," he muttered. "He treated it like a contract." She stood there, spine tightening, the cold of the garage floor seeping through her shoes. "I thought he'd come back," she said, quieter now. "Yeah," Rick nodded. "That's the part he figured out." She wanted to be angry. She wanted to throw some cutting line, something that reminded Rick he wasn't part of their marriage. But the truth was, he was more part of Daniel now than she was. That realization hurt worse than anything Rick could have said. She turned to leave, but paused at the edge of the driveway. "Can you just tell me if he's okay?" Rick didn't look up. "He's better than okay. He's free. That one hit." She walked back to her car, sat behind the wheel, and just stared ahead for a moment. The rearview mirror caught her face, older than she remembered it, more tired, and suddenly painfully aware that maybe, just maybe, he hadn't left her out of spite. Maybe he left her on principle. He had listened, and worse, he had understood. Her inbox is a mess. Flags, reminders, passive-aggressive nudges from her supervisor wrapped in phrases like, "Just circling back," and "Hope all is well." It takes everything in Erica not to throw her keyboard across the room every time someone says, "Per my last email." She used to be the calm one in meetings, the detail keeper, the one who kept projects on track, knew who had what deliverable, who needed encouragement, who needed deadlines disguised as compliments. Now she's the one people avoid in the break room. "Is it a bad day?" whispers one in turn to another. "No, it's a regular day," the other replies. That's just her now. Her boss, Janine, asks her to step into a check-in one afternoon. The room smells like lavender and corporate tension. "We've noticed some changes," Janine says carefully, hands folded over a notebook she hasn't opened. "You've always been a rock here, Erica. But lately, I'm going through something Erica snaps before she can filter it. It's private. Janine nods, polite. Too polite. We're here to support. But we also need you, present. Erica forces a smile. Leaves the room with her jaw locked and her fists tight. In the elevator, she catches her own reflection. The hair's more undone than she realized. Makeup smudged. Eyes dull. She looks like someone who got abandoned and worse, earned it. At home, the loneliness hits her in strange, violent waves. The house creaks more than it used to. The silence is different now. Not peaceful, but judgmental. Accusing. She gets invited to a family dinner. Her sister texts. Sunday? Dad's birthday. Casual. 6 p.m. She says yes, then doesn't go. She sits in her driveway that evening, engine running, staring at the inside of her purse like it might hand her an excuse. Her sister stops texting after that. So do her parents. So does everyone, eventually. Because it turns out, people can only make excuses for your behavior for so long before you start writing your own isolation. She tries to keep busy, reorganizes the closet, alphabetizes her spice rack, rearranges the furniture in the living room at 2 a.m., as if moving the couch 5 inches to the left will shift the ache in her chest. It doesn't. She Googles phrases like, how to get someone back after pushing them away, and men who disappear after emotional detachment. None of the articles help. They suggest flowers, texts, apologies. But what do you send to a man who's ghosted every channel you used to exist in? Who doesn't even check the email you used to share your lives through? One night, fueled by cheap wine and a playlist of songs she used to make fun of Daniel for loving, she sits at her desk and writes a letter. A real one. On paper. The handwriting is shaky. The kind of scrawl that betrays desperation no matter how hard you try to sound composed. Dear Daniel, I was wrong. About everything. About needing space. About assuming you'd always be there to fill the silence. I thought it would be temporary. I thought you'd miss me more than I missed you. I didn't know you had it in you to walk away, to stay gone. But you did. And I don't blame you. I just want one more conversation. Not to fix it, just to not end it like this. Please. Love always, Erica. She folds it, seals it, writes the Tennessee P.O. box number on the front from memory. She still remembers the zip code. Drives to the post office. Drops it in the mailbox. Waits. 1 week. 2. Nothing. On the 3rd week, the letter returns. Marked in thick red ink. Return to sender. Box closed. No forwarding address. No note. No scribble of sympathy from a kind clerk. Just bureaucracy doing its job with ruthless efficiency. She holds the envelope in her lap in the driveway, staring at the words like they might change. But they don't. They're as final as the space she asked for. Only now, that space isn't measured in days or weeks. It's in miles. In years. In someone else's voice answering his phone. And all Erica can do now is sit in the middle of the life she used to share, and watch it echo around her like a house with no insulation. She doesn't want space anymore. But it turns out, space doesn't care what she wants. It was a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind of day that felt like a sigh held too long. The rain had come and gone without ceremony, leaving the pavement slick and reflective like someone had dragged a mirror across the street. Erica was home early from work. Another mental health day, her manager politely insisted she take after she'd snapped at the new intern for asking about printer toner. She hadn't changed out of her blouse, just tossed her shoes near the door, poured herself a glass of water she didn't want, and stared at the window like it owed her something. Then came the knock. 3 measured taps. Not hurried, not timid, just enough weight to suggest whoever stood on the other side wasn't looking for permission. She paused, walked to the door, and when she opened it, everything tilted. It wasn't Daniel. It was a woman, mid-40s if Erica had to guess. Short brown hair tucked behind one ear, dark jeans, a simple blouse. No makeup. No pretense. She didn't look like a threat. She looked like certainty. I'm the one who answered your call, the woman said, her voice clear and direct. Erica didn't speak. Her mouth worked at a question her brain hadn't formed yet. I'm not here to fight, the woman added, or to gloat. I just needed to say something. Because he wouldn't. Erica stepped back, just enough to brace herself against the doorframe. The woman looked at her kindly, but not sympathetically. Not like someone trying to console. More like someone returning borrowed time. He's fine, the woman said. He's loved. Safe. Steady. You don't need to call again. There was no anger in her voice, no malice, which somehow made it worse. "I don't even know who you are," Erica managed to whisper. "I'm the quiet place he found after you made him need one," the woman replied. Then, almost as an afterthought, gentle, almost mournful, "He told me you needed space, so we honored that." Erica's knees nearly gave out. She gripped the frame harder. Her mouth opened, but the words weren't there. She felt her body flush hot, then cold, like grief followed by shame crashing into the same room at once. The woman didn't step inside, didn't ask to. She just reached into her jacket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. "He wrote this the week he left. Never mailed it. I'm not even sure why he kept it. But when I told him you'd called, he handed it to me. Told me to give it to you if I ever saw your name again." She extended it gently, like handing over a funeral program. Erica took it. The woman nodded once, then turned. No fanfare. No car waiting with headlights on. Just quiet footsteps disappearing down the sidewalk. Erica closed the door. She stood in the entryway, the letter heavy in her palm. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Erica, this isn't revenge. This isn't even anger anymore. This is what happens when someone finally listens to what you say, instead of what you hope they'll ignore. You asked for space. I just made it permanent. Please stop looking for me. Not because I hate you, but because I finally love myself enough not to crawl back. You're not the villain. You were just done first. I just didn't know it until you said it out loud. Take care of yourself. For real this time. Daniel." Her hands began to shake. She walked to the kitchen, sat down, and read the letter again. And again. And again. She pressed it to her chest like maybe proximity would soften the blow. Didn't. It only made the space feel wider, colder, and permanent in a way she had never truly understood until now. Because this wasn't a man lost. It was a man delivered. And she was no longer a chapter in his story. She was the prologue he had outgrown. 2 years. That's how long it's been since she last heard his voice. Not even a recording. Nothing. Not a voicemail. Not a slip-up. Not a breath. 2 years since the phone rang and a woman answered with that unnerving grace. Since the letter arrived crushing, calm, and final. 2 years since space stopped being a metaphor and became a border she could no longer cross, even if she tried. Erica sits on a park bench now, just outside the city where nothing really changes except the people who quietly disappear. It's a cool fall afternoon, the kind with wind that cuts but sun that warms, depending on where you sit. She doesn't move from her spot, not even to chase the sunlight. Children play nearby. An old man feeds pigeons. A young couple walks by hand in hand, whispering things only they can hear. None of them glance at her. She's become invisible in the most painful way. Not because people ignore her, but because there's nothing remarkable left to see. She checks her phone again. Not because she expects anything, but because the act of looking has become a ritual. A nervous tick disguised as hope. Inbox empty. Messages silent. The most recent notification is from her pharmacy, reminding her to refill a prescription she no longer takes. Even the spam has lost interest. She scrolls through news headlines she doesn't care about. Opens old photos. Pretends she's just passing time. But she's not. She's searching for any trace of him. A tagged photo. A friend of a friend post. A hint. There's never anything. The man who used to hum when he cooked. Who cracked jokes under his breath in grocery store aisles. Who filled silence not with noise, but presence. He is gone. Not just lost. Erased. She reaches into her purse. Pulls out a photo she told herself she'd throw away 100 times. Wedding day. Her in a modest lace gown. Him with that awkward, crooked smile, already loosening his tie before the photographer finished counting down. She had been adjusting her veil. He had been watching her, not the camera. She stares at it now like a window into a country she no longer has a passport for. The wind shifts, leaves scatter, and still she sits, because there's nowhere else to go with it. All that memory, all that silence. She runs her thumb across his face. The edges of the photo are soft now. Frayed. She's folded and unfolded it so many times it's practically tissue. Someone passes behind her. Laughs echo. A toddler's squeal. The clink of a leash on pavement. Life goes on. Just not hers. Not with him in it. She stares ahead. Into the trees. Into the soft blur of afternoon. Then, quietly, she whispers to no one, "I didn't think he'd actually leave. The words hang there, unanswered, because he didn't just leave the room. He left the planet she was standing on. Orbit shifted. Time reset. And the most devastating part? He didn't burn the house down. He didn't curse her out. He didn't write bitter manifestos or play the victim. He simply respected the request. She asked for space, and he gave it to her fully, generously, irrevocably. Now she carries that space like a second skin. No calls, no letters, no revenge, just silence. The kind that doesn't echo, because echoes come back. And he never did.